Hello and welcome to episode 7 of our Python programming series. In this episode, you will learn about what is file handling and how to read, write, open and close files in Python, as well as understand different file modes and the importance of file handling. So let's get started with what is file handling. File handling refers to the process of creating, opening, reading, writing, and closing files in a program. File handling in Python is really important because it lets you to save and manage your data efficiently. Files can store various type of data such as text or numbers permanently. Now that we know what file handling is, the first step to use it is opening a file. Let's see how it is done. To open a file in Python, we use the open function. The open function is a Python built-in function used to open a file. It takes two main arguments, the file name and the mode in which you want to open the file. This is the name of the file you want to open. It can also include the file path if the file is not in the same directory as your script. Next, mode. This mode specifies the operation you want to perform on the file. The result of this open function is a file object which is assigned to the variable file. The file object can be used to perform various operations like reading, writing or closing the file. Before we move ahead, let's take a closer look at few common file modes available in Python. Python provides several modes to work with files, and here are the most commonly used ones. R represents read mode, which is used to open the file for reading. W represents write mode, which opens the file for writing or overwriting any existing content. A represents append mode, which opens the file to add new data without removing the existing content. Finally, R plus, which represent read and write mode, which opens the file for both reading and writing. Let's see examples for each different file modes which we discussed. This is an example of opening a file for reading. Here example.txt represents the file to be opened and R represents the mode specifying that the file is opened for reading. And here are the other examples of opening a file for writing, appending, read and write. Now that we know the modes, let's explore how to actually read content from a file. When a file is opened in read mode, its contents becomes accessible to read. Coming to the example, we use open function to open a file which takes two arguments, that is file name and mode. Here R indicates that the file is opened in read mode. This means you can only read data from this file, and if the file does not exist, an error will be raised. As we have already discussed, the file object returned by the open function is stored in the variable file, where this object provides methods and attributes to interact with the file's content. In the next line, file.read method reads the entire content of the file as a single string. If the file is very large, this could consume a lot of memory. For large files, it's better to read the file in line by line or in chunks. The content read from the file is stored in the variable content. This variable now contains the complete text from this example.txt. In the next line, we are printing the entire content of the file. Lastly, this file.close method closes the file. It is important to close a file after you are done with it to free up system resources and avoid potential data corruption. In simple words, we can tell in the first line we are opening the file, in the second line we are reading the entire content of the file, in the third line we are printing the content, and finally closing the file. This is how we read a file using read mode. Next, Let's see how we can write data into a file. Writing data to a file is simple in Python. Depending on your needs, you can use the write mode to overwrite the content or to add new data to the existing content. You can use append mode. Let's take a look at these examples on how we can write new data and overwrite existing content. In the first line, we are using open function which takes two main arguments, file name and mode. In this case, writing mode, that is W. In the next line, we are using file.write method which is used to write a string to the file. In this case, hello world is the string that will be written in the file. In the last line, we are closing the file using the file.close method which ensures that all data is properly saved and free up the system resources. Next, to append new data to the file, first we use open method or open function to open the file using the mode A, which indicates append mode. In the next line, as I have already said, file.write method is used to write a string to the file. Here /n, this is a new line, is the string that will be written to the file. The /n character adds a new line before the text, ensuring that the new line is added on the new line rather than continuing on the same line. Lastly, it's important to close the file to ensure that all data is properly saved and to free up resources. Now, as we are adding or modifying files, it is important to remember last step, that is closing the file. Let's see why that matters. Closing a file after you are done with it is very important because when you open a file, that file use system resources like memory and file handles. By closing the files, frees these resources, making them available for other processes and ensuring your program run efficiently. Closing a file also ensures that all data is properly written to the disk, preventing data loss or corruption. So always make it a habit to close your files after working with them to free up system resources. To close the file, you can use file.close method. Alternatively, you can use the with statement to ensure files are automatically closed. This with statement automatically takes care of closing the file once the block of code is executed, even if an error occurs. This ensures that resources are properly managed and makes your code cleaner and safer. The basic syntax for the with statement is as follows. It starts with keyword followed by open expression, next as, and the variable which contains the result of this expression. Next, this indented block of code uses the opened resources. Once this block is executed, it is automatically closed. In this example, we are reading the file, and in this example, we are writing the file. With this, we have covered the essential steps in file handling. Next, let's learn about the importance of file handling. And if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel. File handling is a fundamental skill for any programmer. Let's know its use and importance in the following points. First, file handling allows us to save data permanently. Unlike variables that are stored temporarily in a memory and lost when program terminates or ends. But files keep our data safe and ready to use whenever we need it. Second, files make it easy to share data in different parts of our program or different programs. It can be through different formats like CSV, JSON or XML files, ensuring smooth data transfer and compatibility. Third, managing large data sets in memory can be challenging. Files help us handle and organize large amount of data efficiently, making tasks like data analysis and machine learning more manageable. And this is also very crucial for applications that need to store data, settings, logs, and more. Fourth, files are great for logging and monitoring events. They store logs of what happens in our program, which is super useful for debugging and keeping track of events. Lastly, files help us store configuration settings. Instead of hard coding settings within the program, we can save them externally. This makes our program more flexible and easier to maintain.